Hey, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Maybe even good evening. Today's Monday. We're back to Monday, March 27th. So on Saturday, we got quite a bit done. Had a really good conversation on Saturday all about multiple different things, honestly. Wow, this ultramarine blue is starting to get really difficult to get the paint out of the tube. But we got a lot done on the painting. Specifically, I was able to get, this area kind of lightened up a bit. It's already dried. It's a bit dull now, so the value on it is off. That's what happens. The paint gets dull and the values change, but that's okay. I'm certain that, well, because I took pictures, I'm certain that what we did on Saturday looks good. Today, as I said last week, I'm going to be focusing on this side of the tiger. And as I look at the stream, I notice that I need to move it around so you guys can actually see working on. Hey, good morning, Thinker. Boy, leave you alone for a live stream and look at what the mess you've made. One small dollop of teal does not a great painting make. Just kidding. The tiger's looking great. Yeah, I did just a little bit of teal. I think I mentioned you like 3 or 4 times the last stream. Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for coming today. And any day you can make it. It's great. All right. Move the camera around for you. So on Saturday, what was really interesting is I had a good question about how the Munsell color system works to neutralize colors versus, the RGB color wheel. And I didn't really know, honestly, as far as neutralization, how exactly that would go. The reason why is because the Munsell color wheel does some things a little bit differently. Like right on the two opposites that I would have on my palette, or could have, was the Hansa Yellow Light and the Ultramarine Blue are right on the opposite sides of the color wheel, but they don't neutralize each other within the Munsell color system. But within the RGB color system, when you think about the complementary to yellow, which is blue, that is a neutralizer. Or I'm sorry, not yellow and blue, but yellow and purple. The secondary is the neutralizer. And I'm going to start painting like I always start painting, by mixing up my darkest dark here. Well, I don't always start this way, but it tends to be the one start that always happens a lot of the time. Ultramarine blue, burnt umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson. We get a very dark color. This mixture is going to be a little bit more towards the burnt umber side. And just kind of preparing that for some of the stripes that we'll be working on. But I found it was really interesting on the RGB color wheel versus the Munsell color wheel, or the Munsell color system. It's more a system than anything. Identifying where exactly the paints are on the color wheel. But what I did really find, as far as neutralizing color on the Munsell color system, instead of going for the colors complementary, what's opposite of it, it's a lot faster to look for things that are close to the center, or colors that are closer to the center of the color wheel, and pulling that color towards them with the color that's close to the center. So in this instance, Hansel Yellow Light, I would use one of my neutralizers, which is Burnt Umber, Raw Umber, Sap Green, White, Black. I don't have black in my palette, but those are all my best neutralizers. Okay, the next color I want to mix up is the kind of grayish orange. On Saturday, I mixed up this really cool, actually, this really awesome color. I need to stop using the word cool in that way. Hey, good afternoon, Ulan. Hope you're doing well. But it was a desaturated kind of orange color. And I forgot. I remember last time I started with Ultramarine, or not, Burnt Umber, and that worked out really well. Rather than starting with Transparent Earth Orange, which was too intense. But the RGB still works. I mean, I got an orange here, right? That is the secondary to blue, so if I want to cool it off, I'd add some blue to it. Which will also darken it up. So adding white to it, which is another neutralizer, will bring it down. And for for Saturday, the last stream we had, this worked really well to neutralize a lot of the colors on the right side of the tiger's head. Because I found that everything I was putting on was way too orange. A great example is if you look at where I'm working here. Actually, I'm gonna move you up a bit. There you go. So right up here, we have, it's really gray, but then we have this this shock of sunlight on the side that needs to be very bright. Ooh, I'm shaky this morning. I haven't had that much caffeine yet. So what's going on with you guys? How is the painting going? How's the art going? I'm going to start making the streams more about everyone that shows up and less about me. Any problems you run into? Any issues? Any awesome things that you found out? Any great paintings you're working on? Anything about your life in general you'd like to share? I saw that this discussion of Munsell color wheel, the advantage I see is to place the actual colors you have on the wheel. The RGB wheel is good for generic color theory decisions, not either or both. Yeah, I agree. I think they work well together, but I still think the Munsell color wheel is essential for understanding your palette in a lot of ways. I'm still trying to think if it really helps with mixtures. I think it was such a good discussion last week because it really, when we have these kind of questions and answers that come in, there's some challenge to it where you really challenge the way you're thinking. And boy, that really brings in a lot of growth. It's so easy to go through your day or days and not challenge your thinking and just think the same way for most of your life and then never grow in some way. Oh, here I go, waxing poetically about, philosophical stuff. Yeah, let's talk about Ulan. Ulan, you say, I am at work, so cannot chat much. Started my tiger on Saturday. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, let me know when you share it to Instagram. I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, I'm excited. And hopefully have a good day at work. Thanks for tuning in while you're at work. That's awesome. I looked up Munsell and there seems to have 3 dimensions. 3 dimensions to the color wheel? I think... Is it like a 3D color wheel? Is that what you mean? That part of it I have not seen. That would be awesome. I fear it would be over my head if it went into a 3-dimensional realm. Yeah, while you guys respond, or when you can, I'm gonna just talk about what I'm doing. Oh, there it is. If you look at Google Images of Munsell, you'll see what I mean. Oh, okay. I have to see. Okay, now I'm so curious. I want to look at this right now. So MUNS. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember what you were talking about. There's a few images there. If I can zoom in on this or focus in on that. These are like 3-dimensional things. That's really interesting. I have no idea. What it looks like is they put value on the z-axis, which is interesting. So for 3-dimensional, you have, well, you add one more level to it, because 2-dimensional is just y-axis, x-axis. 3-dimensional adds a z-axis. I think maybe that could be easier to understand. I don't know. I feel like maybe a sculptor made that and it's easier for them to understand. Nope, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Like the French sometimes say "a tasse away," to your wishes. I was learning French. Me and my wife were learning French at one point. Did not get very far in it. Through a really awesome app called Duolingo. It's so good. Great way to learn languages. If you guys are interested in learning any language, I would highly recommend the app Duolingo. It's a game on your phone where it's really not like a game. And any way you can turn like learning into a game is just fantastic. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the drawing, trying to get the value of this area out here, the beginning of the tiger mane. Trying to get the values where I want them to be, and the edges especially. I think it's more about edges here. Because right now they're too sharp in a lot of places, and I'm softening everything out. Changing the value. And bringing the intensity down, the chroma down a bit. I'm really kind of going back and forth between the stripes and the orange fur. But honestly, I keep forgetting to switch brushes. The other thing I didn't do was put oil all over this area. But I put it down there a few days ago. It's dried up, so I got the colors down. But the one thing that I found that I like is when you do, does the 2D Munsell wheel use hue and intensity? Yes. I believe it's considered chroma is what they call it. So let me see if I can get this in a position where you can see it well. Let me see the numbers. Okay, right here. Let me darken it up a bit. Okay, so at the center is 0. And then as you get out or go away from the center of the color wheel, you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the way to 16 on the outside. And that's the indication of chroma. So 0 obviously is black and white, the least amount of chroma, and then 16 is the most. So, what I have out here on 16 are the brightest colors I could ever reach, the most intense colors possible. Like right out of the tube. It's interesting, there's only 3 out there. I'm sure there's probably more, I just don't own them. And then hue is on the outside of the color wheel. All the spokes of the wheel are indicated. So we have, hopefully you can see that, 5R, 7.5R, 10R, and then we go to 2.5YR, so yellow, red, so red, yellow, red, then it goes all the way around, yellow, green, and then blue, green, blue, purple, red, purple, and then back to red. So yeah. Actually, the one thing it doesn't have is value. So it's all about chroma, and it's all about saturation. Value is not indicated here. For example, praline, let's bring it back up. This value is much darker than that value, but it's really intense. It's intense color. So it's closer to the outside. Now, let me get deeper into this. So the Munsell color system, always have trouble deciding what value a given color is. Yeah, that's especially when it gets really intense. It's really difficult to see. So I have this book, and I would say you don't really need to get this book. It's called Controlling Color with the Munsell System by Paul Centauri. He basically took the Munsell color system, which is, it doesn't have any copyrights to it, but the problem is you have to print it exactly. You know, the colors have to be printed perfectly and checked. So the actual Munsell color books, if you wanted to get those, they're like $1,000 each. And it starts with a page that looks like this. So this is all your grays. N is is the designation, neutral, right? And it has all these grays on it. And then as you flip through all these pages, it goes into the actual system. And it gets really in depth because this one would take like a 2.5 YR color. Let's say, let me look at, so here's 5 YR, and I'll see if I can show this to you guys well. 5 YR. Okay, so that's 5 YR. And it goes from, you know, the most intense to as gray as possible. And that's actually my cadmium orange right here. Which is interesting because, you know, as I'm looking at this cadmium orange on my screen from my camera, it looks really gray compared to what it is in real life. Interesting. But on the stream it looks right, which is good. So the Munsell color system goes just crazy deep into it. The color wheel that I created it's taking all that information and really kind of bringing it down to something that's much more understandable while you're working. So my next question you may have is, wow, with all of that craziness of the Munsell color system, how would you use that to like match colors? Well, first of all, it would be in a very controlled setting, like here in your studio, or in my studio. Or, you know, doing a still life, anything in studio. It wouldn't be something that you take, you know, out landscape painting with you. So the guy that I really got a lot of this from, because I was really interested into the Munsell color system, and I did some research on it. And then there's a channel, I forget the name of the channel, but it's by Paul Foxton, Paulfoxton, Paul Foxton. And he's on YouTube, does a lot of live streams. He's got a course about color. And I learned a lot about how he uses the Munsell color system to match colors. And it's actually really interesting. It's really involved, and it's all about matching all of your colors before you start painting, and then using all of your colors, you know, after you've matched them. It's a very, I'm gonna say, arduous process. It really is. It doesn't allow for almost any freedom. Well, it does. It's just, you know, the preparation for getting ready to paint takes a lot of time. But he paints a lot of flowers, and I tell you what, man, the subtlety in color and all of its aspects, all of its properties, flowers. Like, they will teach you how to paint with color, you know, how to get really subtle with everything. It's crazy how intricate it is. So I always have trouble checking what value a given color is. This is, you know, I think I've said it before, the best way to actually see a value. Okay. And it's with your digital camera, honestly. So let me see if I can show you this. This is on an iPhone. If you have an Android device, it's going to have something similar. But I have to open this little tray, and I think I go to... I thought there was an icon where I can adjust it myself. Well, this one has all kinds of different profiles you can switch through. Dramatic cool, mono, silver tone, noir. But basically changing everything black and white. And it really gives you a better understanding of value. Like really quickly. Here you go. Trying to position this so you can actually see. So that's always really helpful. It's not going to be right on, but it's going to give you some better understanding of things. It's still a little bit hard to tell the subtle difference. Actually, silver tone looks pretty good because it shows the difference between the white and up here as being a bit more accurate. But I always found that as being really helpful. And if you're working from a digital image, and you want to understand kind of like the value structure of the digital image, you know, it's really easy to turn things black and white. That's always really helpful. But you can do it on the fly now, which is really great. Another way to do it to really determine value is to squint. Squinting a lot will help. That will help get rid of a lot of the color. So if you're just like kind of in the middle of it, like right now when I'm squinting down, when you squint, you basically take your eyelashes and you mesh them together. So like my fingers are my eyelashes and I'm meshing them together. And it really blurs out everything and it darkens up everything. And, you know, when I squint it down, you know, it gives me an understanding that this value is really high. You know, it helps. It's not perfect, but it helps. And what you do is you squint at what you're working on, and you squint at your reference or whatever you're painting, and then compare the two that way. The other way, there's a third way that a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of a secret. No, it's kind of like every YouTube channel out there. The secret behind this, the secret behind that. Ugh. Those marketing tactics are getting really old. It's called, I want to say a Venetian mirror or a Titian mirror. Something mirror. I mean, it's back in like, you know, forever ago. I can't give you the dates on it, but they would take a mirror and darken up a piece of glass, not a mirror. You would take a piece of glass and just put soot on one side of it. You can make this easily yourself. You take a piece of glass and you put black paint on one side. You'll end up with a reflective surface that doesn't reflect very well. But what it does do is reflect, you know, the simplistic structure of your painting or what you're looking at. And it's another way to tell value, composition, things like that. Honestly, I've never used it. No, actually, I take that back. I think I used it once in the past, like years and years and years ago. And then kind of put it down because I'm like, wow, this is too arduous. 'Cause what you have to do is you have to face away from your painting, put the mirror up in front of you, and then reflect the painting, you know, in that piece of glass, you know, back to you. So the glass is facing the painting, but you're facing away from it, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't remember it being helpful, honestly. If it was helpful, I feel like I still would have it, but maybe I didn't recognize how helpful it was back then. Trying to think if there's any other tricks for determining value. Yeah, there's a couple more. Always know that when you get into really intense colors, it's really difficult to tell the values easier. If you're painting an orange or a lemon, you know, these very bright, intense, you know, flowers. You'll get all kinds of intense colors in flowers. And it is really difficult to tell the value of them because there's some, and especially digitally, ugh. Digital especially will challenge your understanding of value because you can get such intense colors with that backlight that you can't achieve with, you know, paint. And then there's certain ways to show the true value within digital software. Actually, I remember the way I was doing it before when we were painting this tiger. I think I was desaturating, and I was having some issues with that because that was the wrong way to do it. You don't desaturate the colors. You add a layer above all of them that removes the color. Next time we get into digital, I'm going to have to show you that. But just understanding that the more intense the color is, the more difficult it is to determine the value in a lot of cases. Orange is a good example of that. You could have a really intense color that is dark. Very dark. I wish I could point out some paintings. I know I've seen in the past paintings that are super bright and intense, or they're like super intense and they look bright, but then if you looked at them black and white, they would be very dark paintings. What I'm going to do right now, especially for, there's a little bit of shock of light right here on this cheek. I'm debating whether or not to keep it right now, honestly. I think I'm going to paint over it right now and see if it enhances the shock of light that's kind of like this scar going across the front of the tiger. I feel like this one may be pulling away from it in some way, distracting away from it. So what I'm doing here, because I'm doing something completely different, I'm just looking at the right cheek, and I'm going to try and copy some of the values and colors that are there. Well, one thing I'm excited about for the stream is I ordered a capture card for my computer, which will allow me to get away from USB, because I have all my cameras hooked into my computer via USB, and it's really bringing down the quality of the stream. There's so much going on here that you cannot see right now. And I'm hoping when I'm actually able to connect my computer or my cameras via HDMI, that you'll get a true 1080p signal. Supposed to come in today, but then I have to go out and get the cords and stuff, and I have a lot to do today, especially at work. So it could be a day or two before the change actually happens. And I hope that it does have a significant change. I'm going to be very disappointed if I spent the money on this and then it doesn't show well. You know, it's just like just the same. And of course, if you're on your phone or, you know, a small device and you're just listening to me, sometimes that wouldn't show through, but that's okay. What I really want is to give that ability to, you know, if you're on a computer, a bigger screen, that you can see the better detail at some point. And, you know, all these videos get turned into, they call them videos on demand, so people can watch them later. And I want those to be of high quality so that people see all the detail that we're adding. Okay, Thinker, here's a question for you. Let me move the camera over just a bit and move it up. I feel like maybe it's too bright. Yeah, that's a bit more accurate. I lose a lot of the detail in the shadows when I go down to there, but what I did is, you know, this kind of part of the cheek here where the bone is, it's a little bit lighter, but I darkened up that part of the shock of sunlight to try and bring more interest of it here. I think I like it. I think that the bigger issue is, like you've said in a previous stream, is all of this here at the top that is not that shock of sunlight, it has the value is too high. I need to bring these values down in order for that to really take off, honestly. Hey Ashton, good morning. Well, I didn't really ask a question, didn't I? My question, I guess, is when I darkened up this to be like the other cheek, do you think there's more interest on the, you know, in this area, the shock of sunlight? Oh. I think the cheek highlight kind of reinforces the idea of sunlight from the above. Yeah, I could see that. Because it's kind of speckled everywhere. Especially all around in here, we got some really cool speckles of light. Yeah, okay. I think I'll bring it back. It's easy to go overboard with that, I think. Just gonna be lurking as I get ready for class. Hey, no worries, Ashton. Yeah, thanks for lurking. It also gives some more depth to the eye sockets. Yeah, that's true. I could definitely understand that. Okay, I'll add it back. Well, this is still good because I can take a more targeted approach to it as well. And from the reference, it's intense, but it's not as intense as everything up here. So the intensity kind of drops on it a bit. So I like that idea. The value is still way up there though. But because I just put wet paint down, I have to start with a higher intensity. Well, and brighter, because it's going to mix with what I've already put down. And adjust what I have in my brush, which is fine. Just trying to figure out the right mixture of intensity here so that when it mixes with what's down there, that it looks right. And I kind of sneak up on it a little bit too. So I have some color that's less intense than I want, and then when I put it down in the color that I already have there, it gets even more less intense. The intensity decreases more. But I'm going to put it down anyways because this could be, it kind of shows a bit of the fading of this highlight, this dapple of sunlight. So it's kind of the under color of it. And then I can go back on top of that with a bit more opaque paint and brighten up smaller areas and kind of get this idea that the value and the hue kind of fades off a little bit. That's one thing, you know, after observing sunlight on tigers and anything in general, there's, and you can see it on the nose like I did here, there's a very intense spot and then it kind of fades off in different directions. Yeah. So just add a couple of super intense splotches here. No, I didn't like where that one little bit I put down. I don't like it. One little dot. This is where dexterity comes in. Being able to put something in the right place is important. That's why art can be so hard. It's just like, it's not just like, but it's similar to sports. Because there is a physical component to it. Not as much physical. But you have to be able to have a steady enough hand to put things in where you want. When you're working really small, at least. Or even large. There is a dexterity there for, you know, being able to get a very long, perfect arching stroke or something like that. What's really going to test my dexterity is close to the end of this painting when I need to put in the whiskers. Because I'm going to want those in a very perfect, you know, very exact place. They're super tiny. My brush is going to have to be in a very sharp orientation. And I have one stroke. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think one last bit. Hey, Finish! How you doing? Thanks for showing up. The value under the right eye needs to be decreased just a little. Are you talking about right here on the cheek? Or the kind of grayish under the right eye? I'm thinking you're talking about the cheek. Let me see how dry that is, because I worked on it Saturday. Yeah, that's pretty good. I could probably go over it. On the cheek, okay. Alright, let's drop that value down. Should be pretty simple to do. I'm gonna add a bit of my gel medium to this, so it's a glaze, definitely a glaze. This is gonna be like the third or fourth time going over this area, which is I always enjoy because it adds even more texture and interest. And I'm not gonna go over the whole thing. I'm not gonna paint it with a broad brush to bring the intensity down overall. What I'll do is, you know, using these kind of strokes, these methods of just adding in little bits and pieces will allow your eye to mix things together, allow our eyes to mix things together. And what you'll come out with is a darker area. Very textural too. That will definitely bring in some texture to your work. It could be too much texture there. I'm gonna knock it down just a bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, let's move further down on this side here. I really want to get a lot of that figured out. Adding some green into this. The hairs on this side are really wispy. One thing that has kind of struck me recently that's really interesting is, you know, most of the time in my artistic career, you see me working from photos. And honestly, I mean, we've built up the digital version of this tiger from photos. But I am not doing this painting from a photo. I'm doing this painting from a painting that I did. So it's kind of like one level removed. And what's really interesting about that, what I like about that is it's getting closer to, you know, my own preferences, my own kind of how do you say it? Uninfluenced style, I guess. I don't like using the word style, but it removes a photograph from the influence a little bit more. And it's kind of like a subtle step between painting from photos and painting from your imagination. I've always disliked this notion that if you want to be like maybe a comic book artist or something, you know, to stick with the idea of painting from your imagination, that you have to jump right into just making things up out of your head, you know, learning anatomy so well that you can just paint it at any point in time. You know, it's kind of like a big leap from where you're at. And anytime that you can find like an interim step in between, like the training wheels. If you can put training wheels on that bike that you can eventually take off or work away from, you know. And if you know training wheels, when you're a kid or if you have children, you put training wheels on the bike and they have different levels. So the first level is they're all the way down. So they provide like all of the support. I mean, the training wheels will hold up the bike. And that's where you start. So they're off and running, you know, right away. Or they have these new bikes now where they're really small and they don't pedal, they use their legs to kind of push the bikes along. So that's the first step. And the next step is you go to a bigger bike with training wheels. And then you get better at that. You lift the training wheels up just a little bit. You get better at that. You lift the training wheels up a little bit, and etc. Right? So any way that you can find with whatever you're working on, that you can break it down into steps, not only are you feeling more accomplished as you're going through those steps, because you're going, yeah, I got better on this one. Okay, I think I can, adjust a little bit, make a change, make it a little bit harder for me. There's a more, not easier progression. No, it is easier. It's an easier progression, yeah. But it's a more motivating progression. Because we want to get outside of our comfort zone. That's where we learn. But we don't want to go so far out of our comfort zone that we're so stressed out that we just want to give up. So it's called like a stretch. Like you're stretching outside of your comfort zone. You're testing your skills. You're stretching, but you're not snapping like a rubber band. Stretching it a little bit, but not snapping it. So that's what I really like about, doing it digitally first and then working from your digital image into a traditional image. I mean, don't get me wrong, you could work from photos your entire career, honestly, in just about anything that you do as an artist. But where a lot of the life and narrative and story and stuff comes into artwork are those things that are just really hard to get photos of. I mean, I run into that all the time. Heck, with this painting alone, we had to, I don't know, I probably went through a few hundred photos to find what I was looking for. Because this wasn't just any tiger pose. It's actually a culmination of 3 different images together. And I wanted to try and get this kind of majestic look for the tiger in this painting. And I had an idea in my head for what I wanted the pose to look like, and then I had to connect like a whole bunch of images together for that. I mean, if you look at like animators, artists that have done illustrations for years and years. So anybody at the School of Visual Storytelling, Aaron Blaze, I was looking at his YouTube yesterday. Anybody that's ever worked at Disney or Pixar, they're working from their head. They're like, oh, they'll get some kind of idea, but then most of what they come up with is really out of, their mind, and they're able to articulate that visually beautifully. And that just takes a lot of training and a lot of hard work, honestly. But it doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. Hopefully the topics that I get onto here are not too boring. Always worried about that. Okay, so back to the painting. I've added in like some purples here. I haven't really added any teal yet. I'm getting into some greens here, so closer to teal. And if you notice, I don't have any cerulean blue on my palette right now anyway, so that's a problem. I need to add my cerulean blue back because that's where I get all my teal from. But I'm not getting too detailed here. I'm just really playing with value, hue, value, chroma, and edges. I want those edges to be a bit smoother, look a little bit more like hair, and that's what I'm working with. Oh no, I've got it on my finger. Here's a question for you guys as I get paint all over me. Well, not all over me. I got a little bit on my finger. I hate getting paint on me. I really do. I mean, I'm not like, well, there's a lot of artists that would call me, you know, OCD or something like that. Yeah, where you are super clean with, and I am. I'm very clean with what I work with, but it's mainly because I don't like getting paint on me. But how clean do you guys work? At the end of an hour painting session, are you having to take a shower? I hope not. Because I know, you know, you see a lot of artists everywhere, you know, and they'll have a t-shirt on. You know, it's their painting shirt or their painting smock or something. And there's just paint all over it. Like, do you... And I wonder, I'm like, you must be wiping paint on yourself for that to happen. Oh, Finish says, with me, I always use photos, and only with enough practice did I understand how to draw something anatomically normal looking figures from imagination. Yeah. I mean, I'm still so far away from that. Oh, you just reminded me of, you know, yeah, okay, I got a couple things to talk about here as I add some purple and teal down here, just so I can appease Thinker, because it's really important to him. And because I think it looks good too. All right, so there's a book. I'm gonna grab this book real quick. No shower, but need to wash my hands thoroughly and check my face also. Oh yeah, I've done that, especially with charcoal. I'll come back with a charcoal all over my forehead or something because you have an itch. Okay. I'm finding a book. Oh, here it is. Okay, I love this book. Oh, you wear gloves. Oh, that's a good idea. So this is Nicolaides, The Natural Way to Draw. And I love this book. Years and years ago, and a lot of artists have done this. If you look at the reviews of this book on Amazon, you'll see the same thing over and over again, which is, yeah, I flipped through this book and all of the examples are trash. Don't buy this book. Like, didn't even read it, didn't even understand it, just flipped through it, saw images like this, and said, oh, this is trash, there's no way I'm gonna do this. Why is this book amazing? And look, here's some more images that are not great. These are not great drawings, guys. They're pretty awful. That's not the point of this book, though. The point of this book is to get the student, us, me specifically, out of this copy stage where we're constantly copying exactly what we see, which, don't get me wrong, copying exactly what you see is, you know, a step in all of our journeys. But what this book does, and I would highly recommend that if you want to get out of, if you're ready to get more into emotion, story, narrative, more into like a free way of thinking, you know, more into memory, drawing from your head, than just relying on, you know, images that you see. This book has so many just fantastic exercises that will bend your brain and really help you get out of that. And the great thing about it is it's a, let me darken this up a bit so you guys can actually read it. It's a instructional book that has, like, this is schedule 5, and it says things like, you know, every day, half hour of this, half hour of that, quarter hour of this, a quarter hour of that, then a half hour. And of course, this schedule is built on, you know, for a student that that doesn't have a job, doesn't have a life, just does nothing but art, you know. Well, maybe they have a life, but they don't have to worry about making money, I guess. Maybe if you're in school completely, and you want to get to that point. Ashton, this might be a fantastic book for you. The practices in it is amazing. One of my favorite. I've got to go start my day. Catch you all later. Oh, thanks for showing up, Thinker. See you tomorrow, hopefully. But one of the best exercises that I love in this book is, and it's all about drawing. So it's all drawing stuff. It's called the 90-degree figure exercise, and you look at an image of a figure, whatever pose that they're in, and really in the book, he has you do it as if you're in school or class, and you're looking at the figure. I mean, it was written, in the 1800s when students could do this, right? In a lot of ways, where you could be in front of a figure model anytime, several times a day. And that's the way he has it. But I did it from photo, and it's just as good. But let's say you're looking at this tiger here. Oh, that's a really good example. The tiger, or anything, okay? And instead of drawing the tiger as you see it straight on, like this head of the tiger, you think, I haven't seen the profile view of this tiger from the side, but what would it look like if I was sitting exactly 90 degrees on the side of this tiger and drawing the profile instead of the front view? And so you do that. You look at the tiger in one angle and you draw it from your head from another angle. So you're using what you see here, and you're trying to capture depth within what you're seeing and understand the form in your head even more to get that ability to actually draw it from a different angle right away. It's a fantastic exercise. And there's all kinds of exercises that lead up to it: contour drawing, blind contour drawing, cross contour drawing, all kinds of cool stuff. Just so many different methods. The lineage of this book is fantastic as well. And it started with Robert Henry. I love Robert Henry. He wrote the book, The Art Spirit, and it talks all about, getting away from this idea of, copying from nature and really looking at emotion and story and narrative and letting that be your driving force for your artwork. And within that book, he gave an idea for one exercise. And then I believe he taught, I forget the person's name, like John Stone or something like that. I can't remember their name. And then that person taught Kimon Nicolaides, who wrote this book. And so it's still kind of in that same idea where they're getting the student out of the copy phase and into the thinking phase of art and going beyond just what you're seeing. It's really fantastic. If you're wanting to take your figure drawing to the next level, if you feel like, okay, I'm pretty good at proportion, getting the figure down pretty good, and now I want to see if I can really understand form beyond what I'm just seeing, I would highly, highly recommend that book. And don't get put off by the terrible illustrations within it. Because Kimon Nicolaides, he wrote the book, but then died before he could do all the drawings for it. So the people that he taught took the book, took what he wrote, and then ended up, pulling a lot of student drawings and putting student drawings in the book. So it's a bit different than probably what he would want or would have wanted to illustrate. And some of the illustrations don't even match what the book is talking about, it seems like. But it's a really good book for that. I mean, I went through, I'd say, a good 80 to 90% of it. And you can see the entire process that I went through on my website, chrisbeaven.com, which shows, you know, my art every single day. Even from yesterday, I just put that up, which was a different painting I'm working on. But anyway, come on, Nicolaides, a natural way to draw. I'll probably put it in the show notes. Yeah, I need to start doing that, getting back to that. All right, thanks guys for joining me today. It's a little bit over an hour, and we got a lot done on this. Actually, I'm really happy with this whole area. I'm happy with really everything above the nose is good. Get down to this left side, maybe the bottom of the tiger beard mane tomorrow, and then we'll be done with the head finally, and then on to the rest of the body, which I think would probably go by really quickly. Definitely. All right. Thanks, guys. I will see you tomorrow.